So in this video today, we are going to be building a mock dividend portfolio in M1 Finance, just so you guys can understand how does that work with earning dividends with M1 Finance, and why are there a lot of dividend investors flocking to this free investing app. Now that being said, if you guys at the end of this video do decide that you want to sign up for M1 Finance, I do have a link in the description below to do so. It is an affiliate link, so if you do use that link at no additional cost to you, I do earn a commission. So if you feel like giving back to me for putting this video together, that is very much appreciated, but it is not required if you don't want to. And then one other thing I want to mention really quick, I just finished up a completely free 30-minute video training outlining how to use M1 Finance as a complete beginner. So it walks you guys through the entire process step by step of opening an account with them, funding the account, everything in between, and everything you need to know to get started with M1 Finance. That is also going to be linked up down in the description below. But that being said, let's go ahead and open up my M1 Finance account. We're going to build a mock dividend portfolio, and then we're going to talk about what exactly happens as this portfolio earns dividends. Okay, so here we are inside the M1 Finance app. This is my simple portfolio that I put together here, starting with $100 just for demonstration purposes for the app, but it's definitely not a dividend portfolio. A couple of these stocks do pay dividends like Microsoft, Apple, and the Vanguard 500 fund, but they're not high dividend stocks. So if you're looking to earn dividends through M1 Finance, you basically have two options. Number one, you can invest in one of the expert pies or expert portfolios that have a high dividend yield, or option number two, you can build a portfolio from scratch with high dividend stocks. And I'm going to show you guys both of these right now. So let's assume, for example, you just want to invest in a pre-built portfolio that pays a high dividend. Well, M1 Finance offers over 30 different expert pies that are completely free to invest in, including income earners right here. That's a category right here. Income earners choose a portfolio focused on dividends and income returns. So if we open that up here, there are a number of different options here as far as dividend earners. You have some bonds as far as a more conservative approach to income. You have bank balance sheet. I'm actually not familiar with this portfolio, what this one entails. But then you also have a domestic dividend ETF or blend of funds, or you have a global dividend blend of funds here. So let's say, for example, you want domestic dividend. You could select this right here, and it's going to tell you exactly what this portfolio is. So it says here the M1 domestic dividend pie provides exposure to U.S. companies with larger than average dividend distributions. The pie was built for people seeking continuous dividend income from U.S. companies. Dividends provide income investors with cash flow. So as we can see here, the total expense ratio of these funds is going to be 0.11%. And if you click on targets here, we can see exactly what they're investing in. It looks like 83% is in a Vanguard dividend fund, and the other two I'm not familiar with. It's another ETF out there. And this overall pays a dividend yield of 1.84%. We'll take a look at another one here. Let's say you want global exposure here. This is the Global Dividend Fund for Income Earners. This one has, it looks like 5 different funds in here, and the dividend yield for this fund is significantly higher at 3.37% with a slightly higher expense ratio. So there are expert pies built into this app specifically designed for people looking for dividend income. And so this is where you would find that primarily under the income earner section of this app. Now, option number two is to build a dividend portfolio from scratch where you pick your investments, you pick the stocks or ETFs, and then we'll talk about what happens as that portfolio earns dividends. So now we're going to go ahead and build a dividend portfolio from scratch on M1 Finance, and we're going to do so right over here. And essentially what we're going to do is pick 5 dividend stocks to add to this portfolio just for demonstration purposes. So there's a couple of stocks I have in mind that pay high dividends, and we're going to add them to this portfolio. And obviously, guys, I'm not telling you to invest in these companies or not invest. Do your own due diligence for sure on these companies and do your own research. I'm simply just throwing them in here for educational purposes to show you how the app actually works. So first of all, AT&T is one of the biggest companies out there for dividends. So we'll add that one to the portfolio. They have a very consistent dividend. Altria, that's a tobacco company. Some people don't like investing in them. I personally wouldn't, but they do pay high dividends, so we'll throw them in here as well. Next, we'll add Southern Company, which is a utility company. And then we're also going to add Wells Fargo, which is a bank, obviously, and they pay a high dividend. And I'm purposefully trying to grab companies from different industries as well for some diversification here. And then fifth and finally, we're going to add ExxonMobil to this portfolio. So we have, a couple of different industries here, and then we'll go ahead and click done. Now, automatically, they're going to split the money evenly across these 5 stocks, and that's exactly how I'm going to leave it. Let's say, for example, I was looking for an individual stock dividend portfolio. I have done my research on these 5 investments. I've decided I want to invest in them. Then I would have, 20% of my money going to each of these 5 stocks. So that's exactly how I want it. And I'm going to go ahead and click save. And now this has created this dividend portfolio for me, and we'll go ahead and name it as such. Now, what's going to happen at this point, if I actually funded this portfolio and added some money, it's going to be split up across these 5 investments. So let's say, for example, I funded this with $1,000. Well, about $200 would go into each of these 5 stocks. And the reason you're able to do this is because of a feature called fractional shares, where you're not purchasing whole shares of AT&T or ExxonMobil or Wells Fargo. You're purchasing as little as 1/10,000th of a share, which allows you to have a diversified portfolio without worrying about that share price. And then if you guys are curious what the yield is of this portfolio, you just jump over to the details tab, and you can see right here, this would have a dividend yield of 5.13%. Now, that's a pretty high dividend yield, and obviously you'd want to do more research on these companies before you invested in this portfolio, but I just wanted to show you what it looks like to actually build a portfolio, and it'll show you right here what your dividend yield across that entire portfolio is going to be. Now, that being said, what actually happens when you earn dividends? Now we're going to jump back to my actual portfolio, and I'll show you guys what happens. So like I said, a couple of these investments here in this portfolio actually do pay dividends, and we can see that by going over to the activity section of the app. So as you can see here, I've earned dividends from Apple as well as Microsoft and the Vanguard 500 ETF, and those dividends have gone towards my cash balance held on the sidelines, and that is viewable by looking at your portfolio right here. So this is a portfolio worth $116.30. Like I said, I started with $100, and if I click on the arrow right here, it shows my cash balance of $1.10 with auto invest turned on. And so what that means is that as I earn dividends, those dividends go towards the cash balance held within my account. And with the auto invest feature turned on, once that cash balance exceeds $10, it's going to be spread evenly across my portfolio, and they're going to try to bring me back to my target allocations. So that is how that auto invest feature works, and it's a little bit different than a stock level dividend reinvestment where the exact dividend goes back into the exact stock. Instead, all of your dividends accumulate together, and once that balance exceeds $10, it's invested across your entire portfolio. That is why I call it a portfolio level dividend reinvestment. And the other thing M1 Finance is going to do as you add more money to your portfolio or as your dividends are invested is they're going to do their best to attempt to bring you back to your target allocations, because as you have money in the market, each of these assets is going to perform differently at different times. So as you can see here, I've done exceedingly well with Apple and Microsoft and not so well with Amazon. And so as a result, I'm underweight in Amazon and overweight in Apple. So my goal was to have 30% in Amazon and I have 27.6. And my goal was to have 10% in Apple and I have 12.3. So if I were to add more money to this portfolio, M1 Finance would try to bring me back to that target allocation of 50, 30, 10, 10. So as you add more money to your portfolio, or as you earn dividends and that balance exceeds $10, it's going to rebalance your portfolio, or they're going to do their best to bring you back to those target allocations. But anyways, guys, that's going to wrap up this video. That is how dividends work on M1 Finance. That is how to build a dividend portfolio. And like I said, you have a couple of different options there. You can build your own custom portfolio from scratch and choose your ETFs or stocks, or you can invest in one of the pre-built portfolios with an income-oriented approach. Like I said, if you guys want to check out that completely free 30-minute M1 Finance video training, that is linked up in the description below, as well as a link to sign up for M1 Finance if you decide to use it. But thanks so much for watching this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.